I was getting these TV shows that were offered to me that were much lower quality, scripts that I wasn't excited about, showrunners that I wasn't totally excited about, but guaranteed more money in the lead of the show. And I had a moment where I had to say, do I say no to this and trust that I'm going to get something else? And I did. And I had the uncertainty of saying no, keeping my job as a waiter, the uncertainty of not knowing what job you're going to get next, and saying no. Saying no, there's a lot of power in saying no. It's so hard, it's so scary, but sometimes you gotta say no and be uncertain of when that next job and that next paycheck is.
Welcome to the Let Me Save You 25 Years podcast, not just another interview podcast. Instead, we jump right into a new Shawnism each week. Each one of these a lesson I've learned, usually the hard way, along the way, in hopes that you can maybe learn from my mistakes and build great things, even bigger, better, faster than I ever did. These are simply true principles and useful tactics for success in life, not just business, unpacked in great depth by extremely successful people each week. My book, also called Let Me Save You 25 Years, where today's topic comes from, is intentionally very short. So this is like the long version of the book where I can go even deeper into topics. Today we have a guest from the quintessential epicenter of uncertainty and unknown outcomes to expound on this topic with us. Shawnism number 17, embrace uncertainty. Oh, this is the rarely discussed trait that I believe separates entrepreneurs from wantrepreneurs. And entrepreneur is such a broad word, actually. And, today's guest is an actor, and I consider them entrepreneurs. I mean, lawyers, when they're doing their own thing. I mean, entrepreneurs are so much more than just people that start businesses and brands. And I believe I've thought a lot about this over my life, and there's all these traits, grit and hard work and leadership, whatever. The thing that I think is fundamental that never gets talked about is their ability to thrive in uncertainty, because uncertainty is I think the hardest thing for human beings to deal with. We would rather know that something went bad than just not know at all, right? Whether we recognize it or not, we're a comfort-seeking species. We will subconsciously make decisions to avoid pain even before we seek pleasure. Uncertainty is oppressive. It can be transient, like when we're waiting to hear back about some good news or bad news. It can be enduring, a 10 years long endeavor that never quite works out or makes any money or could ruin us. It may come in the form of giving up ownership if you're raising money to build a company, or taking a job and working your way up, taking a job with a company you've just met. You don't know the people. You don't really know how it might come out. You just need to learn to roll with it. And we're going to unpack this. I love what comes of this conversation. Some tactics, some useful strategies to learning to roll with it, to learning to deal with it, to learn to compartmentalize. This is a skill. It's often, I think, it can be a pejorative. It can be something that people can be critical of, you just compartmentalize your fear, you compartmentalize your feelings about this or that. I think it's a superpower, the ability to, okay, this over here, this main thing in my life is a train wreck, or maybe there's a train wreck, looks like it's coming, and I can still come home and smile at my kids and have a great dinner and sleep at night. You can get better at these skills. And we talk a little bit about how to do that in today's pod. Listen, not everyone should even aspire to be an entrepreneur. If everyone was an entrepreneur, there wouldn't be anyone helping me build Lovesack. Even though many of the people that have chosen to be in an entrepreneurial company like Lovesack, I consider entrepreneurs in that way. They've chosen to spend their life, not in just big corporate America, but in a company that has ambition and is still taking risks. But entrepreneurship's too celebrated, too lauded, too glamorized. The truth is, unless you have some innate ability to embrace uncertainty, it's not meant for you. Um, that said, if you can develop the ability to embrace uncertainty and thrive in ambiguity, it will serve you well, entrepreneur or not. What is stressing you out most right now? Well, just imagine if you had no idea where you might have a job next, what it might be, or even where in the world might require you to be for that job. Such is the life of an actor. And not just any actor, but an actor that is focused on building a long-standing career associated with the best titles and fellow actors with key roles on at least 2 of the hottest shows I can even think of in all of media right now. He played Tyler in Euphoria and Dylan on White Lotus, roles on Fargo, Gossip Girl, You, pretty much every show Tiffany and I, my wife, have loved watching. Can't believe our luck to have on the podcast today, Mr. Lukas Gage.
Oh my God, that was the best intro I've ever had in my whole entire life.
Hey,
Thank you, Tiffany
I'll be your hype
and
man.
John.
Yeah,
I'll
Tiff
take
loves
it.
you.
Aw,
And when I
thanks,
showed
man.
her your face, she's like, "Oh, I know that guy."
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. I think it's a familiar face and less familiar name.
Well,
I think I get a lot of things where people just ask me like where do I know you from? And I'm like, I don't know. Where do you know you
you're
from?
like, "Do you know Kim Kardashian?"
Oh God. Oh no.
Hey,
Um,
my wife is a pop culture phenom, so
yeah, yeah.
she's anyway, she's really excited that we get to chat. So
Thanks,
good
Tiff.
to be with you, Lukas. When you first heard the topic, embrace uncertainty, what was the first thing that came to mind?
I think I think you teed it up perfectly. It's my career. I mean, uncertainty is something we all live with, but I think actors, I think we deal with it maybe a bit more than the average profession. Like we never know when our next job is or when our show is going to get picked up if we film something and it doesn't go for another season. You just don't know. You don't even know what takes they're going to use. You know,
Yeah.
everything is out of your control. It's very uncertain in all areas. So um, yeah, I think this is a very fitting topic. Have I've made a very close friendship with uncertainty, which we started out as enemies, and now we're friends.
This so the I it's so cool we get to unpack this because most of the topics in this show come from a business standpoint. I wrote kind of a business book. I'm an entrepreneur, founder, business
Yeah.
leader, whatever, running a public company. But I've loved having guests on, from snowboarder Shaun White to
Hmm.
football coach Urban Meyer to the Gronk to you, because these principles that I talk about, these 25 little Shawnisms, they're just true principles. And so I start from a place where I call out in the book that one of an entrepreneur's kind of superpowers, whether they even think about it or not, and most don't, I never hear this talked about. Like it's rarely discussed. But the thing I think that separates it, like a founder from kind of a not a
Yeah.
entrepreneur, is the ability to live and thrive, in fact, in uncertainty. And I don't think most even reflect on it because they just do it. They just sort of like get along. But they have a strength for it. And I think that's why they're not kind of failing out of the gate. Now,
Yeah.
my guess is that most actors probably didn't necessarily consider that when they went into acting. They love acting, they love movies, they love cinema, they love, the stage, whatever. Yet they have no choice but to
Yeah.
either live in this uncertainty or fail. So I think that's really fascinating. What's been your
Yeah.
experience with that?
I mean, I think I moved to LA. I was 18. I didn't know anybody. I just gambled on myself, and I think it's one of those things of my being naive about it was probably helpful. You know, I didn't know enough. I think I know too much now that I think if I had the information now, it would have instilled too much fear in me and probably would have been a roadblock. But I think, you know, I think it hit me pretty hard, and it was a hard thing to let go of having uncertainty all the time. But I think if you conquer the struggle of the illusion that you have any control over anything,
Hmm.
you can eventually have more fun when you lean into it. And when you fail, when I think you should fail way more often, and when you're okay with uncertainty, you handle it better and you can land on your feet with a little more grace.
So, have you found any? First of all, had you ever contemplated before I sent you this topic? Had you ever contemplated this concept before on your own? Like, when did you
Oh yeah.
recognize that you've had that like this was part of the gig?
I think pretty quickly, about probably a year into auditioning, and then getting parts, and then finding out that your show that you're so excited about getting didn't get picked up, and you were locked down for 4 months of your life, and you couldn't audition for anything else, and then it never sees the light of day. I mean, it's just I just had to take a, or just getting a job and getting fired and getting replaced. I think it's just like you. That's why I started to do a thing where I just don't even tell anyone that I have a job
Mm.
until I see it in the edit or anything, because I just don't know anymore. I don't want to give my family any more stress, so I just try to keep it on the DL. But I've gotten better with it, and I think the freedom that comes with it, like the reevaluation of what matters when you acknowledge all of life's uncertainties. Like, you may love your work and your career, but you're bigger than that. You're bigger than your job. Your work does not define your value as a human. So I think if you, I don't know, if you can just love your job but not make your job your life, it's just another beautiful part of your life that has helped me with the uncertainty in my career.
Hmm. That's good advice. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, their job, their career, their company, whatever,
Yeah.
defines them. I mean, most people, I don't even think know my name. I'm like the love sack guy. Oh yeah, like love sack guy. If they know me at all, or if they, um,
It's okay. I'm the ass eating guy, or the guy who got his ass kicked on HBO. It's fine. I think Love Sack guy might be a little better.
you said it, man. No, but like that's actually a great point. And we were chatting a bit before. I listen. It takes a lot of balls to found a company and go for it and to take risk with other people's money, with your own money, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it probably takes more guts to do what you do. You and I were just talking about Emma Stone and her performance in Poor Things,
Yeah.
which is like searing, man. Like I've never seen anything
Amazing.
like it.
It was incredible, inspiring.
Yeah. Where does that where does that boldness come from for you? I mean, you've put yourself in a number. In fact, I think most of the stuff I think of that I've enjoyed on Euphoria, on White Lotus, you know, you're you're not necessarily the lead in those two shows,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you play a pivotal role and you deliver a very memorable performance. So where does the is that something you have to gear up for, or do you just naturally have that kind of I don't know boldness?
Well, thank you for saying it's bold. I mean, I think if I'm being completely transparent and honest, the thing that usually happens is I go for the lead in Euphoria or White Lotus or shows like Fargo that I love, and I'm like, okay, I'm going for the lead. I'm going for the lead. I get really close. It's down to me and another guy. They don't go with me, and then there's another role, and so the role is usually smaller, probably a more supporting, reoccurring thing rather than a lead. And so I think I heard this quote from, I think it's Jack Nicholson, and I'm gonna botch the entire quote, but basically what he's saying is like, when you get an opportunity, you drive it, you want to crash into a wall, and you want to like really make sure. This is a horrible summary of it, but basically what it's saying is like, you better put your stamp on it, and you better be bold, and you
Yeah.
better make them remember you. So I think I read that quote really early on in some acting book as a kid, and I'm like, okay, if I don't get those big things, if I don't do anything, I at least want to be remembered. I at least want to, I want them to think of me when I go in the room. I'm going to do that weird thing. I'm going to put my little spin on it so people at least, keep thinking of me, even if I don't get the part. Like they're gonna remember the kid who did that line completely insane, but it's stuck in their head. So I think that was instilled in me, and I think, um, yeah, I think as I got older, I probably just got a little bit more and more less self conscious about things, and willing to take a swing a little bit more.
Yeah, taking risks. I mean, there's nothing that defines, I think, on the classic entrepreneurship MO more than like a risk taker. But
Hmm.
I don't know, man. Like, and I had never reflected on it because I think a lot of us just watch actors or watch movies and see the movie. But what would it be like to play someone like your role in Euphoria that I just saw again the other day, actually, where you have to like get pounded and crumpled by
Hmm.
some of and the fear that you need to like conjure up.
Yeah.
I was watching that thinking about uh and it's got to be like, how do you separate the embarrassment that comes from doing certain things in these
Yeah.
roles, or do you just you become that person and there is no, you're just there, or and after, how do you feel, or are you able to conquer that, or like how do you live with the ramifications of that as an individual?
I think I'm trying to think. Like I, I believe that I'm innately a little bit unapologetic and a little bit. I'm definitely a people pleaser, which I need to work on for
Mm.
sure. But I don't have too much shame, and I'm a little bit comfortable with the uncomfortable. And on top of that, I've always wanted to play characters that are unlikable, that other people are like a little bit weary of playing. I'm more interested in that, and what draws someone to do something that most people find unlikable. Or I just think there's something more interesting and nuanced about that, even if the audience hates me.
Hmm.
But I don't, the thing that I do probably have maybe embarrassment about, I think, is watching performances back. I watch everything I've done. I'm not one of those actors who's like, I can't watch it. I have to watch it, but I've never watched anything more than once. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just I'll start getting critical and wanting to go back in time and get a time machine and change what happened, or and then I
Totally.
start to, yeah. So I think that can kind of fuck with the uncertainty, being okay with the uncertainty, and being okay with, well, they didn't use the takes that I wanted, or I had gigantic pimples and there's a huge close up. Like, well, it's out of my control. Like, it is what it is. So I just have to, I don't know. I think that, like I said, like, it's just, when we're talking about uncertainty in life, it's just, you're bigger than your work and your life. Like, I mean, your work is just one part of your life. So I think just realizing that at the end of the day, we're just making a TV show and a movie, and it's important. I think movies and TV shows saved me as a kid, but it's also like, we're not curing cancer.
Yeah, yeah. I find it fascinating that you have to live with the uncertainty going in, and then even after it's printed, and you're so probably stoked that you made the cut, that the show made it, and or whatever. Then you have to live with this piece of art like forever, like it's unchanging. Where
Yeah.
what's weird about business, I was talking about this with Urban Meyer in a previous episode. He was kind of, we got into it and he realized, like, for me, I like with Lovesack, like you're like, oh, I remember Lovesack from the giant beanbag days. And
Hmm.
we've become this, almost $1 billion company selling mostly couches. Well, I get to just keep moving the goalposts. And if I have a bad week or a bad season or a bad product, I can just like design another one and move on and keep moving.
Yeah.
And like, so this is like an organic living thing I'm building in business, where Urban was kind of jealous. He's like, I win a national title and then it's like over. And then all I can do is go do it again.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And like with you put this thing in motion, and maybe you just didn't like your glance. Maybe you just didn't like one thing about it,
Yeah.
but you can't change it. You have no control over it. So you're living with uncertainty on both ends. And so what's crazy is I think sometimes actors and acting and this sort of thing, I just don't think it gets enough credit. I've had a long respect for acting because I can't do it. I can't, like, I just don't have the capacity. And I think that actors
Yeah.
have a certain genius to be able to like become someone else.
Hmm.
That's wild to me. Like I don't understand it, but I
Yeah.
think it's cool that we're kind of cousins in the sense that you have to embrace uncertainty to have success. I have to be as a risk taker in business, but wildly different
Yeah.
mediums.
Yeah. I think it's applicable to a lot of things, and I think it's applicable to life too. I think you have to, not only your work, I just think your personal life, like you have to be okay with uncertainty, and the only constant we have is change. And every relationship you're uncertain about. You don't know when you're gonna end, when you're gonna break up, when you're gonna, you know, uh, friendships, everything. So like, you just have to be okay with uncertainty and embrace it. And as you lose one person, you gain another, hopefully, and you just keep always yeah, leaning into it.
So, do you have any strategies for the embracing of it? Besides just dealing with
Yeah.
it, what have you
I
developed?
mean,
Yeah.
for me, I don't think I'm someone who really dwells. And of course, if you have your process and you need to, you know I've been there where I really dwell on the loss or cry and whatever. But for me, I think that I deal with uncertainty and loss and life, whatever life throws at me, with movement. So for me, that's the traveling, that's meeting new people, that's doing new things, and constantly moving. I'm totally ADD and have to just constantly move, 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 and that's how I deal with those issues. I think
So keep
that's what
moving.
helps me. Keep moving. You have to.
Yeah, I can identify with that. I found myself planning my next trip to Asia. I've probably been to China 80 times.
Wow.
I speak Mandarin. I lived in China. It's been a big part of our story, getting LoveSat
That's
going,
sick.
because we've been manufacturing over there for a long time. And I found myself planning my next trip, and I found myself kind of looking forward to it. And I was like, why do I look forward to this? I've been there. I'm not. It's not like I'm going on some vacation. It's not like I'm going to
Hmm.
see any tourist sites. And
Right.
worse, I have to leave my family where I really try hard to like spend every moment I can with my kids because they're growing up and I'm
Right.
gonna miss them. So why do I find myself looking forward to this? And I think to some degree, it's kind of like what you're describing. Like the grind of business is so hard, and I have been at it so long, at 25 years, that I think just the sheer momentum of the next thing and the next thing is able to keep me going, even when sometimes I feel like a little bit depressed or I'm having a bad day or maybe in a bad couple of days. I don't know if you ever get those, like a string of,
Yeah. Of course.
but if you're able to have something to look forward to, plan the next thing, it's just able to somehow like a winch out there, keep tugging you forward towards something.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. I usually look up a cheap flight 4 months in advance. I'll find some random place, and mine is usually Europe for me. I need to do Asia, but I'll just book something
Mm,
and I'll have no plan. And a lot of times I have to cancel it because of work and obligations. But just having that and
mm,
just having something to look forward to, um, and because I just do it for myself, I love to travel and I love to just go to some random place, get lost, and meet people and figure it out. So I like to have, even if I have to cancel, which half the time I usually do, just to look forward to and have something outside of my life, or my career as an actor. God, I keep on even calling my life. That's how bad it is. I mix up the two.
no, I love that. That's a great tactic and something I think people can use. That's what's funny is you're kind of combating uncertainty, the uncertainty of your existence, with more uncertainty,
With more certainty, yeah,
but in a way not
yeah,
so, because you have the certainty of this thing to look forward to, at least, even if the way you travel is
yeah.
open-ended.
Right. And what's the worst thing that can happen? You put $30 on some trip insurance and do it at another time, or you know, or you go and you have an uncertain trip, but it could be the best trip of your life, or it could be the worst, and that's okay too. You'll learn something out of the shitty trips.
Well, you had said something earlier about learning to have fun with it. That's obviously one example. Any other examples of how you've learned to have fun with the uncertainty?
Um, Having to have fun with uncertainty. I think I don't know if this is a great example, but I usually what frees me up and loosens me up is I'm uncertain of whatever's going to happen on the day of filming. So I'll usually mess up on purpose the first take just because it frees me up and it makes me lean into the uncertainty of it and the possibility of failure of whatever that is, because there's I don't really believe that there is a failure
Mm.
of a scene, and there's no right way to do anything, but I'll do something weird and mess it up on purpose, or I'll say it really weird on purpose or do it really big and over the top just because I'll just get out of my own head and be okay with messing up. And usually the thing that we think is the mess up or the wrong take or someone trips or you stutter over a line is usually the best stuff, the most usable human natural thing that is used. So I think yeah, I really push for people to get better with failing.
That's so cool. Have you had some of those first takes make the cut?
Yeah, yeah, I have. Yeah, and I think also there's something about doing it for the first time that has it, you know, that spontaneity, and it feels really fresh. It doesn't feel like this overdone, you know, it can get stale if you do it too much and you don't keep it, you know, keep it full of discoveries. I think. Um,
I
but
think that is
yeah,
brilliant advice because, and I often in many different scenarios or conversations, I'll encourage people like, don't think, just
yeah,
answer this. Because I think that our first instincts are often really powerful. Even if they're not good, they can lead you to somewhere good. Like you might do something weird and it may not be the right cut, but then you could build on that. And you would
yeah.
never get like one that comes to mind that I've watched is Moira on Schitt's Creek. Like we've been watching
Hmm.
Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, love. She's
And
amazing.
I'd heard that she had done that wacky accent. I don't, who knows why. And I think of it, I imagine that show without her behaving that way. Like it's totally irrelevant. Like it's not even a real accent of anything,
Yeah,
but like it defines the character.
yeah.
And so I think like sometimes I think we self edit too much and think too hard about what we look like, what, you know, how we're going to come across, even our ideas. We edit our ideas, like in my settings, like new product ideas. How can we get to a place where we're really free to
Hmm.
think about like the craziest solutions? Because, you know, I had the experts in Couchland tell me like this product would never work because I've been making furniture for 40 years. Like, trust me. So it almost takes you being kind of dumb to discover where the real original ideas lie, I think.
Yeah, or just unfiltered or you can't edit yourself and direct yourself and be present and be in the moment. And I think, you know, I had an experience even on the other side of writing. I wrote this film with my friend and we somehow sold it to a company and got it made for Netflix. And, you know, we didn't know what we were doing at all. We wrote this movie in a weekend. And everyone was like, "Don't tell anyone that you wrote it in a weekend, that you wrote it in 24 hours." And uh, I mean, it's out there now, but we just had fun with it, and we didn't know what we were. We never wrote a film before, but we felt like we had been on sets enough and watched enough that we could do it. And I think having that fearlessness and having that embrace of uncertainty and just being like, we have no idea what we're doing, but that's okay, and this is going to be like nothing we've seen before, and it's going to be all over the place and it's going to be messy, but maybe that's perfect.
And so this is happening. Is this an
We already
active
yeah, we
project?
shot it, we filmed it, it's on Netflix right now. It's called Down Low.
Oh, down low.
Yeah, I mean, look, the movie's flawed and has mistakes, and it was our
I love it.
freshman film that we ever wrote. And then that you know was a very enlightening thing to see how much uncertainty there is behind the camera, because you sell something. I after that's done, you think, oh, I have control. I made this thing. It's not true. The studio, the network, the director can change and shape shift whatever you wrote. It's sold now, so they have control over it. And then you think, okay, well, at least I can act in my, this thing I wrote it for myself. No, you still have to audition for it, like other guys against you for the thing that you wrote. Okay, so you do that, and then it's just like it's never ending, and then you just have to you just have to like have some humility and humor about the whole thing, because I think if you don't, it'll drive you crazy. You just have to like laugh at the madness of it all.
Yeah. That's good. Well, it's a skill that you've developed or that you had naturally. And it's weird with skills like that because it's such a weird skill to have, the ability to thrive in uncertainty, that I don't think most people really think about it.
Yeah,
And I wonder if like that's how you end up as an actor or an entrepreneur,
yeah.
or if you're just forced to develop it because you chose to be an actor or an entrepreneur. I don't even know if there's an answer to that.
I think I think it's a skill, in my opinion, that you can train and get better at, like anything. Like it's a muscle. I think the pandemic really helped me with that. We
How
went
so?
through. I just think like I thought the world was going to end, and I thought that I was never going to work again, and I thought there was no way that we could be on set. And then,
Mm.
sure enough, we found a way to do it with. We found a way to act with a mask and a shield on in a contained environment, and like it's we were growing up at the most insane time ever, and then on top of that we get out of the pandemic, and then we're in a writer and actor strike and can't work.
Hmm.
Like it's just, you have to be okay with all of the punches that life throws at you, and just trust. I think trust is a huge part of uncertainty and battling it, that you have to trust that every time, if we look back in history, it finds a way to work itself out. What if everything works out? What if we're still here right now? We're still doing it. So I think the more we can trust and the more we can get okay with not having control, the better off we'll be.
You brought up something earlier. I think that's interesting. It's not just you, right? Like it affects others. Like your family
Yeah.
is interested in your well-being, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
so you said, I try to shelter them
Hmm.
by not telling them about my jobs or lack of jobs or changing situations. Um, is that because in your observation they don't deal with uncertainty the same way you do, or do you think that's requisite of someone who is like in a role like yours or mine where there's a lot of risk? Like I reflect on this all the time. Like how much do I shelter my wife from the risk I'm putting us in, let's say,
Hmm.
versus how much do I, how transparent am I day to day? I don't want to stress her out. She's got other things on her mind. Like what's your thoughts on that?
I think I'm agreeing. I'm leaning towards the latter of what you're saying. It's like little white lies that don't hurt anybody, or just omitting information that could maybe spin them into a cycle of worrying about you. And sometimes I think my mom, she gets more invested in her, about parts that don't happen or things that fall through, than I do now. So I think
Mhm.
sometimes it's better just to let her, not tell her too much. um but I think even her, now that I'm thinking about it, there's things that I had lost or didn't get picked up, or I got fired from in the very beginning, and she would take it on so hard. And now I think that she sees she sees how it is, and how this business operates, that she gets a little bit better about it, and she she understands it. And I think it actually maybe helped her, and helped her with her work and
What
letting
did she do?
go. She does real estate in San Diego, so
Mm.
she has people backing out of offers and things that go into contingency, and then it doesn't. And so I think she would get really, of course you get stressed out, and financially you have to take care of yourself. So those are real things that I still struggle with, and maybe struggle with the uncertainty of. But I don't know. I think I'm just like, it always works out, and I don't need
Yeah.
too much. I don't need to have the biggest house or the nicest
Hmm.
car or anything. Like I'm okay with what I got. So
That's critical right there. I mean, I think uh sadly, these outside expectations can really wreck people's lives when they
Yeah.
don't need to be wrecked. And I think, like, also in what you said about your mom, I think it demonstrates that you probably always had some capacity in this realm, or you certainly developed it as an actor. But as you said earlier, I agree. Like, it's a muscle that can be developed. And if you're observing that in your mom, where she's
Yeah.
seems to be developing it as you go, living, a little bit with you, through you,
Hmm.
probably. And now it's a strength that will probably help her in her core
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, I hope so. I think that I even, yeah, I see it kind of leaking through in her personal life, and I think she was really hyper vigilant about her kids and making sure everyone's okay and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, I've seen her kind of let go of the reins a little bit the last couple of
Mm,
years, and just being
roll with it.
roll with it, roll with it, roll with it. And I used to have that hyper vigilance, and I used to have that wanting to control every relationship, every
Hmm.
job, everything. And I think I hopefully, God, I was a nightmare kid, so I hope that was one thing that I could give back to her, is just having a little bit, having a little bit more ease with everything.
Isn't it wild that I don't think that we often associate the ability to be like a jellyfish as something of strength. It's a
Hmm.
metaphor, but like in the book, I actually use this. So I became, I don't know. I'm not a surfer per se. I've become one. Like, I love surfing since
Yeah.
I moved to San Diego and spent time there. And I dabbled in it, along the way, but it's fun to be able to go every day,
Yeah.
and once you do, you start to get comfortable with bigger and bigger waves, because you have to learn to just, like, look, man, you're going to get tossed. You're going to maybe be under for a little bit. And if you panic, you're going to gasp for breath, and you're going to be in a bad situation, where if you just learn to just, like, take it, just kind of let it toss you, stay calm,
Yeah.
you can take a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I surf and I snowboard as well. And that's a perfect analogy. And it is one of those things that it is a muscle that you can get better at. And I think for me, whenever I have friends asking me, like, how do I surf? How do I do this? I'm like, you have to do it every day. You have to go somewhere for 2 weeks, do it every day, get over your fear, get comfortable with the scary stuff that's going to happen to you. And you're only going to ride a wave, and you're only going to go do those crazy slopes on a mountain when you're okay with eating shit.
Yep. And I think that's the value in cross training. Like, as dumb as that sounds, I think that these things that I do, like dirt biking, which is crazy dangerous if you do it the right way,
Yeah.
surfing, other realms where you can push yourself out of your comfort zone, be in some kind of danger, and learn to roll with it. And I push my kids into these things as well. I don't. Otherwise, the only place you get to learn them is on the playing field of life, and there may not be enough you may want to be, you may want to get better and better at these things, as
Yeah.
opposed to going in, without that strength. And so, any other tactics you think that have helped you in this realm?
Um, Ketamine therapy, mushrooms, doing something every week or every month that scares the shit out of you, and doing it anyway.
Yep,
I
love it.
mean, yeah, I try to do classes and stuff that maybe aren't totally related to what I do as an actor, but I do it anyway to just throw myself into the uncomfortability of it all.
Like what?
I've done, like, like a stand-up comedy thing or like an improv thing, which
Cool.
is related, but like it's
No,
not what I do.
that's a
Like,
whole other
it's a
bag
whole
still.
other thing, it's like I'm used to having a script and my lines, and so I do want to be okay with the uncertainty. I mean, improv, I think, is like, God, everyone should do it. You have no idea what's going to come next. All you have to do is be present and have acceptance. If you resist anything, you're
Mhm.
screwed. You have to yes and. That's like the number one rule in improv. And God, it scares me so much, but it makes me be okay with the not knowing. I really like,
Yeah.
and I have so much respect for these comedians and these improv actors that can go up there and just not know anything that's going to happen for the next hour and roll with it. And when it's good improv and good stand up comedy, it is so fun and electric, and you can feel it, and it's inspiring.
One thing you said that I wrote down that I love is this idea that you get the chance to play a supporting role, because I think that's analogous to lots of things in life, not just acting. You get that, someone once said to me, like, this is a quote that stuck with me through business for 2 decades now. If you get the chance to ride on a rocket ship, don't haggle over what seat.
Mm-hmm.
And you've gotten that chance, and you put your stamp on it. You took huge risks. You, to your point, took the unlikable characters, or even maybe made them unlikable because it worked for the scene, or it put your stamp on it. And by doing so, you're not just another face. I mean, I perceive you as like a hot commodity in Hollywood. Like, you're building a real career because of your ability to not just play the role. Like, there are lots of people who can just play a role.
Yeah, thank you. I'm putting hot commodity on my resume from now on.
Dude, by
Said
the
by
way,
Sean Nelson. Uh,
well, here's an example of that. And from my own life, this goes all the way back pre-Lovesac. I was a waiter, like so many actors sometimes
yeah,
are. And I was trying to get hired at like this really expensive place that made a lot of money. And I was way too young. Like, all their servers were like, like career servers, like the guys with the
yeah,
table. And I remember they had this big long thing to fill out all this work history. I had no work history. I'm like, I don't know what I was 19 years old or something. So I just it said like qualifications, and I put, I'm dead sexy. That's all I put. And I turned this thing in, got the call back, got hired. I mean, I think it speaks to what you said, like, hey, if you're gonna drive the car, crash it into the wall.
yeah. If you're gonna drive the car, crash it in the wall. That's a better summary of that quote.
I
Yeah,
mean, at
look,
least you'll be remembered, right?
I mean, look, I had the uncertainty of people saying, "Why are you saying?" There was a moment where I was getting these TV shows that were offered to me that were much lower quality, and scripts that I wasn't excited about, showrunners that I wasn't totally excited about, but guaranteed more money in the lead of the show. And I had a moment where I had to say, do I say no to this and trust that I'm going to get something else? And I did. And I had the uncertainty of saying
Mm,
no, keeping my job as a waiter. I, and just being like, I have to take a gamble on myself. I have to take a gamble.
wow.
And then that led to Euphoria and White Lotus. And like I said, I've made way less money, and it's a way smaller role, but it's the kind of writing and shows and filmmakers that I wanted to work with. And I knew that if I did the thing that I didn't love and potentially could be locked in for 5 years, that I would never have the
Yeah.
opportunity to work with the people that I really would like, the Sam Levinsons and the Mike Whites, that I'm like, I would die to even just be in the same room with. So the uncertainty of not knowing what job you're going to get next, and saying no, there's a lot of power in saying no. It's so hard. It's so hard, and it's so scary. But sometimes you gotta say no and be uncertain of when that next
Mm.
job and that next paycheck is.
I love that. The uncertainty that comes as a consequence of saying no. In my world, we have obviously had so much commercial success because of our focus. Like, we are competing against other, furniture brands that sell everything from like knives and forks to, I don't know, trash cans for your bathroom.
Yeah.
We sell only couches and sacks. End of story. I mean, there's things that go with those, some throw
Hmm.
pillows, whatever, but that's it, like it. And it's really risky. And in the sense that if something happens to one of those businesses, I mean, we're not diversified. On the other hand, that's why we've grown like we've grown. That's why we have a name that means something, because we make the best stuff. And you've made some of the best and been a part of some of the best properties. And I think that there's real wisdom in that, but you have to be willing. Like, it would have been maybe easier for you to take this certain role that paid you money and another notch in your resume, whatever. But now you have a clean IMDb with,
There's
mostly
some
only,
there's some rough stuff in there. There's
yeah,
some
but
rough
you know
stuff.
what I mean? You have this great IMDb with great stuff on it. But man, you have to be willing to take that risk. So risk taking, obviously a cousin to being able to embrace uncertainty. And that's why I phrase it the way I do. It's not just, look, we all are faced with uncertainty, whether we
Yeah.
like it or not. The ability to roll with it, the ability to embrace it, the ability to deal with it and to build that muscle,
Yeah.
and saying no is part of it. I love that. It's brilliant.
I might have been in a different place. I might have had a nicer apartment or a nicer car, but I don't think I would have been happier. I don't think I would have had the
Good.
amazing experiences that I've been super lucky to get if I didn't do the uncertainty of saying no to things and the uncertainty of taking a gamble on myself and just trusting that like there's
Yeah.
going to be something else, there's going to be something else, and there's going to be that thing that I'm supposed to be a part of. I just know it.
I'm certain. And by the way, I mean, not that you need me to pump you up, but I promise you, like, I mean, you know what I don't know. There's always stuff brewing, I'm sure, but there's no doubt in my mind, because of the choices that you've made, that you're going to land in a different and better place. But like the marshmallow test, the famous marshmallow test, like, do you have the fortitude to resist the marshmallow today so you can have two tomorrow? And you've proven that you do. And I think that fundamental self-control
Hmm.
of not just taking the easy path and following your instincts, like some of those decisions, there's no right answer. You can choose this or that.
Yeah.
So then you just have your instinct.
Yeah.
How do you manage your instincts? How do you know?
You don't. I mean, you got to just it's a gut feeling, but you really don't know. There's you could the thing that could have been the opposite of your gut feeling could have been the right thing, or I mean, like there is no right, but it could have been. It just is all a different path, and it's it's
But you
all.
don't dwell. You've said that and you've
Yeah.
proven that.
I can't. I just can't, and I
Good.
try not to dwell, and I try not to hold on to anything. I just have to let it go selfishly for myself, for my own peace of mind.
I love it. And so have you ever faced any consequences? You talked about being unfiltered,
Yeah.
and it's another one of these strengths that kind of has helped you deal through the uncertainty and also helped you have success. What are the consequences of being unfiltered and
I don't think
unapologetic?
I don't think I've had any. Like, look, we briefly talked about the viral video thing, and um, we've talked about risky stuff I've done on TV or something I've said online that I probably shouldn't have. But like, I think ultimately some of the things that a lot of people would have been like, I don't know, that could really screw you up, or I wouldn't do that, or it all ended up working out okay. And I think whatever tiny consequence I've had out of it, there's something positive that the authenticity or the truthfulness to who I am and sticking through that and that has overcome any kind of like little backlash or little consequence. So I don't know. I don't think there really has been any. I think so far, I mean, knock on wood.
Are you an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, look, I'm getting into producing. I started the writing thing a couple years ago, and I'm continuing with that. I'm always looking at the branding and marketing space and getting involved with brands and doing collabs and partnerships with them and just constant. I have so many ideas that I'm like, oh, I want to create this, or why hasn't this been made? And then I'll hit someone up and they're like, nah, it's already being made. Or I'll find a book and I'll be like, this is going to be the next big movie. I'm getting the rights and IP for it, and then somebody already got it a couple years ago. But I'm
Mm.
constantly like, my brain is never stopping. I have a notepad thing on my phone that I'm just like constantly writing ideas and being like, I need to do this and that, and not much gets done. But I think I have it in me. I have
Oh
it in me,
yeah.
Sean.
That's why I asked the question is I think that there are too many professions like acting and the other stuff that you're involved in that don't, they hear the word entrepreneur and it's like almost out of left field, but in reality, the attributes are the same.
Yeah,
The medium might be slightly different, but you're managing the business of Lucas and you're dealing with all the same uncertainty I am. It's just in a different realm.
Yeah, I think,
And
yeah, you got to have a balance of both the creativity and the business entrepreneurial brain. You got to blend the two.
yeah, I don't think sometimes actors and just others that are in roles, just different realms, don't give themselves enough credit for being entrepreneurs, and maybe are, by the way, are not even seeking out the mentors or reading the right books because they don't think of themselves that way, but they
Yeah.
are. And
Yeah.
that's a big reason I wanted to have you on the pod. And I'm really grateful for the wisdom that you shared. Is there anything that you might offer someone, getting started earlier in their career, whatever, that might help them save a chunk off their 25-year journey? You're in the middle of yours.
Yeah, I think it's what I said earlier about being more comfortable and failing quicker, fail as quick as you
Mm.
can, take a risk, mess up. The more
Mess
you
up on purpose.
mess up on
You said
purpose,
you mess up your first take on
mess
purpose.
up
That's like
on
wild to me.
purpose.
Did you learn that from someone, or is that your own thing?
Um, did I learn it from somebody? I think just the more I've been on set, the more I've been able to work with people that I look up to and I think are incredible, that I suddenly see that they don't have it all together, and that they don't have too many preconceived notions and over planning, and they're open to the moment, I think, and to discovering it on the day. And I think when I first started, it was like I had to dot every I and cross every T and have everything planned out. And I think the more I did that, the more it bit me in the ass. So I think just watching people gracefully make mistakes, and there's an ownership of your role and your character when you are okay with the mistakes and you're okay with the stumbles and you don't shy away from it, you embrace it. There's power in it. So I think watching people do that and learning by just being on set, I
Yeah.
think yeah, I think the biggest thing I could say is like get more comfortable with the uncomfortable and fail on purpose. That's my biggest advice.
Yeah. Develop that muscle, though, like you said, whether it's snowboarding, whether it's surfing, whether it's improv classes, stand up comedy. I mean, that scares the crap out of me, man.
Yeah,
Like I've thought about doing it just to push myself. However you do it, developing this muscle actively to deal with uncertainty, to deal with failure. And then I'm trying to analogize your first take thing in my own life. Like, um, that's the beauty. This is one of the things now that I got it, like you said, it kind of freed you, right? To do the next take and whatever. And then, by the way, some of the first takes get used. In my case, Lovesac went through a full bankruptcy, and it's in the book, and I'm really open about it. And it was really embarrassing. It was right after I'd won $1 million on TV. Not right
mhm,
after, but a year after, whatever. I was on a reality TV show with Richard Branson, 2005. Boone and Murray Productions out of LA. Anyway, um, totally humiliating. But the nice thing about, I mean, it wasn't nice going through it. We had to run the company, going through a Chapter 11 reorg, humiliating, articles being written, still had to show up and make it work. And we came out of it. And of course, now Love Sac's doing all this great stuff. But somewhere on that timeline, it's like, what are you going to do to me?
yeah,
Like, what's like, or when COVID happened and we had to shut down all of our showrooms. And by the way, 80% of our revenue came from those showrooms. I just closed them all. And it
mhm,
felt familiar, like, okay, here we go. Like, buckle up. I know what this looks like.
yeah,
And I survived the first. And then, of course, it actually turned out to be good for my category. But my point is, once the worst
there
has
you go.
happened to you, what are you going to do to me?
Right.
Like, I've already lived through this.
Yeah,
And so then I'm free. It's like, I don't worry. And I can go to bed. I mean, in the middle of it, I can sleep, wake up, go do it again.
yeah, yeah,
There's a power that comes from failing.
yeah. There is a freedom. There is a freedom and a reevaluation and a recalibration of like, okay, I've had it, I've hit it, I've been tossed around, I've been shut down. What's next? It's like always like, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? What's next? Or now what? Or
Been
so what?
humiliated.
It's all good. So what? So what? Like I would just keep having people say to themselves, so what?
Yeah.
Always. What is the worst that can happen? People
And
make
what's amazing,
yeah.
I think Lovesack will grow to 1 billion and beyond and be super rad and famous, whatever. I think you will too.
We'll see.
And you don't even know it. And I don't even know it.
Who knows?
But that's
We
what's
don't
cool
know.
about being in it.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't know what could happen to us the next day. I mean, even when you play it safe, you don't know what's going to happen the next day. You could be the safest person in the world and still an asteroid comes and hits. Like, you just don't know. So it's better to
I disagree. I think playing it safe is the riskier move. Honestly, too safe. Honestly, I think
playing it too safe is riskier.
Yeah, I think honestly, like at least if you're trying to actually achieve something, look, if you're just trying to exist.
No, I agree. I thought you were saying something else. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, and that's why I love your work. That's why I love your approach.
Yeah,
I didn't know it would come of this conversation. You know, not all my guests are entrepreneur, founders, CEOs types, but sure enough, you gave us so much wisdom. I'm really grateful.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thanks for spending the time. You can follow Lukas, by the way, as I do, at Lukas Gage, Lukas Gage on Lukas with a K, LUKASGAG on Instagram or X, Twitter, Lukas Gage, as well as where he will be happy to give you a video tour of his new and improved apartment since blowing up in Hollywood. Please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast or video. Please give it a star rating if you can. Every bit makes a huge difference. Thanks in advance.
This was a video recording?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've been literally like doing the craziest shit. Okay. Well, there you go. There's uncertainty. I didn't even know we were being recorded on video. I thought this was an audio. We love it.
Oh, sorry. I guess we should have explained that. Lucas.
No. It's all good. It's all about being uncertainty. See, you didn't even know. Now you can see all the weird.
No, it's actually good because I love that. You didn't even know you were on camera.
We love it.
And now we're going to use the first take. We'll share it out on social media. Share it with a friend. Thanks so much to the Hollywood megastar in the making, Mr. Lukas Gage.
Thanks, man. Thank you.